Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you are our amazing, wonderful Patreon patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Let's get right into it. We've got so much to do. We actually had to move some stories this week over to next week's stories.
I know.
Because we had so many
If we keep doing that, we'll be in trouble.
Stories. Yeah, it's not a sustainable
All right,
system.
so this is Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. She's playing a lightning round game during a House Oversight Committee hearing on February 6th to emphasize the broken system of ethical accountability.
Now, before we get into this, I understand that she is a darling of the left in terms of politics. I'm not trying to get into politics here. I'm just trying to listen to specifically what she has to say.
Thank you, Chair. So let's play a game. Let's play a lightning round game. I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn. Oh, and by the way, I have enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators. So you're going to help me legally get away with all of this. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, I want to run. If I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC funded. Okay, so let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great. So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. And that is considered speech. That money is considered speech. So I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in. I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Fabulous. Now, is there any hard limit that I have? Perhaps, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, is there any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence, especially if I'm based on the special interest funds that I accepted to finance my campaign and get me elected in the first place?
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
Okay, so awesome. Now, Mr. Mirabani, the last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so my last question is, or one of my last questions, I guess I'd say, is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Mirabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes.
All right, so one last thing, Mr. Schaub. In relation to congressional oversight that we have, the limits that are placed on me as a congresswoman, compared to the executive branch and compared to, say, the President of the United States, Would you say that Congress has the same sort of standard of accountability? Is there more teeth in that regulation in Congress on the president, or would you say it's about even, or more so on the federal?
In terms of laws that apply to the president, yeah, there's just almost no laws at all that apply to the president.
So I'm being held, and every person in this body is being held to a higher ethical standard than the President of the United States.
That's right, because there are some ethics committee rules that apply to you.
And it's already super legal, as we've seen, for me to be a pretty bad guy. So it's even easier for the President of the United States to be one, I would assume.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
You know what I think was the best part of what she did? She put it in very easy to understand terms. Like normally when you watch C-SPAN, which is what this was, which is just watching the House of Representatives, you just fall asleep because they're just talking about things you can't understand. She made it fun to listen to, totally understandable, and by the end of her 4 minutes, I could totally understand what she was talking about.
Right. So, I mean, let's just recap in case it wasn't perfectly clear. Basically, what she's saying is that if you were a representative and you wanted to make a ton of money and not necessarily, care who you were screwing over, for lack of a better term, you could just basically completely get away with it.
Yeah, I can take money from fossil fuel companies and then I can pass laws about fossil fuel companies, and that's perfectly fine to do.
Right. And you can even buy stocks in fossil fuel companies, deregulate them, then when their stock goes up, you can sell the stocks. This is the kind of stuff that, like, I wonder why the fossil fuel industry has been, polluting and getting away with all of this crap for so long.
Yeah, I mean, the system is broken. There's no argument there.
And let's just talk about what we mean by what we say when the system is broken. It's kind of like I kind of picture like a high school goth kid with his makeup and he's like, system's broken, man. No. Like we're trying to actually frame this properly. I think it's a mixture of gerrymandering and money in politics.
That's it.
I think that I don't care which side of the aisle you sit on. I think that you can basically agree that both of those things are no bueno.
Yeah,
I don't think that's good.
We're not pushing for one party over the other.
Right.
This benefits both parties. It benefits the politicians who stay in power. There's no easy way to get Representative Ocasio-Cortez into power. That's why it's so miraculous that she's sitting right there, because it was totally unexpected. Her district was gerrymandered, and it was just a long shot that she got in.
Right.
If you want to have a system that allows for the people to be represented instead of big oil and big fossil fuel companies, then we need to change the system, like Jesse said. No more gerrymandering and no more money in politics. Because when you have money in politics, you're allowing lobbyists to control everything.
Right. It should be, this is a representative democracy. We elect our officials. I'm talking about the United States here. I know that there are a lot of Europeans who watch, but at least in the United States, we have a representative democracy, which means that you have a representative who is supposed to represent you in the government to, pass legislation that should be beneficial to you.
Right, and there's no reason right now for them to listen to you because you are not giving enough money for that politician to care. Right. Whereas if you are a big PAC or you're one of the big contributors, then they have to listen to you or else they won't get reelected. And that's just wrong.
Right.
All right, so this was an interesting interview with Charlie Rose between our good friend Bob Lutz and our good friend Elon Musk. Take it away.
Revenge of the Electric Car. Joining me now, two of the film stars. Elon Musk is the co-founder and CEO of Tesla Motors. Bob Lutz spearheaded GM's Chevy Volt, as you know from our previous conversation. I'm pleased to have them join me now in a conversation about electric vehicles. Did I hear you say in that clip, I have not yet seen the movie? Anybody who comes from outside thinks they can do something is going to fall on their butt.
Yeah, because what happens is they have a brilliant thought, but they have a great deal of difficulty implementing it because they underestimate the knowledge and technology and experience required to actually build a car. Elon went through quite a bit of that, and
we did go
after about 2 years of struggle, they began to think, maybe those guys in Detroit aren't that dumb after all.
Well, I never thought the guys in Detroit were dumb. I think that sometimes the media tries to create more of an antagonistic position than is really the case.
Yeah.
I'm actually really supportive of any efforts like the Volt or the Leaf or anything that goes in the direction of sustainable transport. The whole purpose behind Tesla, the reason that I put so much time and effort into creating it, was to serve as a catalyst for transition to electric vehicles.
All right. Has he succeeded beyond what you expected?
Yes, I think Elon and Tesla had kind of a rocky spell there, and the Roadster being at a $100,000+ car, but only seating 2, that is a very thin market segment. And after about a year, everybody who wants one has one, but almost. I don't have mine yet. But the transition to the 4-door sedan, I think that is going to open the window to a much broader market and to a sustainable commercial future.
Right. Here's a picture of that 4-door sedan, which you said to me you think is a fine-looking automobile.
Yes, I do. I think it's clearly one of the best styled medium-sized to large-sized 4-door sedans in the world today.
So are you betting the company on the success of this?
We are.
See there, straight talk, huh?
Yeah. Sure.
So this has got a success. So how did you go about the design?
First of all, I should maybe just preface it by saying that the strategy of Tesla from the beginning has always been to start with a low-volume, high-price car, then go to a medium-volume, mid-price car, and then
end up with
low-price, high-volume.
Right.
And sometimes people think that the reason we started with the sports car is because I thought there was a shortage of sports cars for rich people. That was not the reason. It was simply that anything we produced would be expensive because we did not have the economies of scale necessary to make things inexpensive. So having done the Roadster, which was very, very difficult, you can imagine as a new car company trying to sell an electric sports car during let's call it the worst car market since the Great Depression, presented a challenge. But we managed to get through that narrowly, and now we're on the verge of delivering the sedan, the 4-door sedan, the Model S. And it's really quite a significant leap forward. I can tell you a little bit about that. It's got a range of over, this is pure electric, it's got a range of over 300 miles. There's a performance version that'll do 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, which is faster than a Porsche 911 Carrera. It'll actually be 5-star crash rated in every category, without exception, by 2012 standards. This is a very difficult thing to meet. In fact, my understanding is that there is not a single vehicle that is 5-star crash rated in every category by 2012 standards. So we will be the only one. So it will be the safest car.
So what does he need to know, Bob, at this stage?
I think they've got obviously a brilliant design staff, a very sound engineering staff. They've got a great production facility in the old NUMMI plant in Fremont, California. Dealer network is going to be a challenge. Having sufficient marketing money is going to be a challenge, but I think this has a high chance of success.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Because he's got all the things, at least significant, he's got the important things right.
Here's the problem. You've got a sound product, and 90% of this business is having as you and I were saying earlier, 90% of this business is having a product that people want. And part of making them wanted is the design.
Right.
Nobody buys an ugly. You could have a 400-mile range. If it was ugly, nobody would buy it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's sad, but that's the truth.
Aesthetics are extremely important.
Yeah. So how much is it going to cost?
Starting price is $50,000.
$50,000 for the car that we just saw.
Yeah, starting price. It's kind of like see a BMW 5 Series. Starts at around $50K, goes up to $100K. So if you get the high performance version with all the extras, it could be $100K. But the base model is $50K, and it looks just like the one you just pictured.
Mm-hmm. So the movie.
Yeah.
What it documents is the fact that what you did in announcing the Tesla, you used to spur the development of the Chevy Volt.
Yeah, because I wanted to really leapfrog Toyota with all of the accolades. They were being elevated to godlike status because of the Prius, and I was convinced that Toyota's next act was going to be a fully electric car. So I wanted to do one, at least as a show car. And I was told that the only good reason I heard was the whole automobile industry is in litigation with the state of California over the EV mandates. How's it going to look for our case if we're litigating against California and then we put one on the show stand? Well, that argument I kind of understood, but all the other arguments were, well, lithium-ion isn't going to work. Lithium-ion is years away from being capable of being a car battery. And then Tesla announced the Roadster with, I think it was 0 to 60 in like 4.5 seconds, 120 mile an hour top speed, 200 mile range, which I thought, wow. And so I said, okay, I mean, this is outrageous. Here is a small startup car company on the West Coast, obviously very confident about lithium-ion batteries, is going to go into production with this car, and we, many of us would still say technologically the most competent, didn't always show it, but technologically the most competent car company in the world, and we say it can't be done. So then we got into the, well, maybe let's take a look phase, which was the beginning of the Volt developments. Whether Tesla is ever hugely successful or not, I'll always owe him a debt of gratitude for having kind of broken the ice.
Bob Lutz being a champion of electric cars is quite a switch from the Bob Lutz we used to know. He sold the board on the fact that this technology would leapfrog Toyota, which had been GM's nemesis.
The electric car was pushed all the way up the ladder by Lutz himself in a way that is very, very personal, a way that suggests he regards it as his legacy at the company.
How is the Chevy Volt doing?
It's, last I checked, it's doing well.
Yeah. And it's done everything you intended it for to do.
Yes, and what it is people keep thinking, well, the Chevy Volt is a failure because they only do this many a month. This is all production related. I mean, we're still in the ramp-up phase, and it's only being distributed in certain parts of the country right now. We started with California and with Washington, D.C., and it was, remember Coors Beer, you know, it sort of did its long march across the United States. Yeah, right. It's kind of that way with the Chevy Volt. Chevy Volt is doing extremely well, and in terms of customer satisfaction, it's just about off the chart. I've driven a lot of things during my long career, and to drive a fully electric car, lap after lap after lap around the grounds here, I really had the feeling of it being a historic moment. Certainly was in my career.
Are you on board that the United States should lose its addiction to oil?
I would certainly hope so. Yeah. And certainly, primarily, I would like to see it lose its addiction to imported oil. That would be the highest priority.
Whether it's Canada or anywhere else.
Well, I mean, let's say friendly Canadian tar sands would be in the. I would count that as domestic.
Yeah, probably true.
Making gasoline out of. I mean, we. If we have a need for petroleum products in the future, and we will for many more years, because electrification of the car fleet is not going to occur totally within the next 10 to 20 years.
Is the electric car back from the dead?
Well, you could argue, was it ever dead? Because I think people were, even after we recalled the EV1s, there were still electric vehicles out there. But I think it's back with a vengeance, and I would say the electrification of the automobile is a foregone conclusion. It's going to be a gradual transition. Meanwhile, we'll still need a lot of oil. We'll need oil for jetliners and so forth. But, you know, the Germans fought World War II with the liquefaction of coal and making gasoline out of coal. There's something, and we've got the world's largest coal deposits. The technology to make gasoline out of it exists, and nobody's talking about it. I don't understand it.
All right. Do you accept his idea that he doesn't believe that global warming is produced by man activities, human beings' activities?
Well,
you don't believe that, do you?
So
he's going to get himself in trouble like I did.
No. So the way I look at the CO2 thing is that we're running an experiment, which is to see what the CO2 capacity of the oceans and atmosphere is before Earth gets cooked. I don't think that's a wise experiment. That experiment, let's say that experiment is 99% likely to show that CO2 is no problem, but 1% likely to show that it's going to cook the planet. I don't think we want to take that 1% chance. It's just not smart.
You think 1% is the right number?
I think it's more than 1%.
You think it's what?
Well, it depends on when and how many trillions of CO2 get pumped into the atmosphere. Yeah. There's no question that at a certain level, it will destroy the Earth, or destroy large portions of the Earth. The question is just what is that level, and how soon do we stop pumping vast quantities of CO2 into the atmosphere? Given that oil and even coal are a finite resource, it doesn't seem to make sense that we would run that experiment when we have to get off them anyway, because they're simply finite.
What was your motivation to do all this?
So my motivation, actually for all my companies, has been that to be involved in something that I thought would have a significant effect on the world. And when I was in college, there were 3 areas that I thought would most affect the world. One was the internet, the other was sustainable energy, both production and consumption, and the third was space exploration, particularly making life multiplanetary. So as things have turned out, I've been able to be involved in all 3.
What are you doing in terms of the planetary exploration?
SpaceX.
A private rocket company.
Yeah, so NASA selected my company, SpaceX.
Well, I want you to tell them about it.
Oh, okay, sure. I run 2 companies, Tesla and SpaceX. Right. SpaceX is short for Space Exploration Technologies, right. And we build giant rockets and spacecraft, and NASA selected us to take over the cargo transport function of the space shuttle. We'll be doing our first mission to the space station hopefully in January, so that'll be a big milestone. We've done several rocket launches already, and we build the whole rocket from scratch in California, actually. From raw metal comes in, we build the engines, the structure, avionics, guidance, control, and then we launch from Cape Canaveral, and we will be launching.
This makes him your kind of guy, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He's a hardware guy.
I should. May I say that I really like Bob Lutz?
Yeah.
By the way,
have you read his book here, though? Car Guys versus Bean Counters?
I've not received a copy of his book.
Well, you heard him talking about it, and you told me you agreed with most of the things he said.
Yes, I actually agree with most of the things that Bob says, and I have a lot of respect for Bob. I just want that to be clear, because sometimes people may sort of make it out that somehow I don't like Bob, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bob and think he's awesome.
Well, you want to come here and peer with him?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what's the biggest challenge for the, how did you say, the electrification of the fleet?
I think Bob articulated it well, which is that we have a vast number of vehicles that are gasoline. We need to make, therefore, a vast number of compelling electric vehicles. Just spooling up that production line and switching out the install base will take decades. So we will have an addiction to oil for some period of time. The question is really, can we minimize that time, and in doing so, minimize the potential damage to the environment?
All right. Much success to you.
Thank you.
The Tesla S will be available when?
We will start deliveries in July of next year.
In July of 2012.
Yeah, we're already sold out of next year's production, though.
And what's the annual production?
We will be producing at about 20,000 units a year, although since it takes a little bit of time for the production line to spool up, we'll be producing about 5,000 or 6,000 cars next year.
And where are they produced? Where
in California.
In California?
Yeah.
Fremont.
Fremont.
Yeah. It's the old Toyota GM plant called NUMMI.
I think this might end up in history classes someday soon.
It's going to end up in museums. I honestly think, yeah, this should, hopefully the next version of textbooks, whatever they are, I hope it's very visual and entertaining. This should be on one of the pages. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it. I mean, and to see the difference between the guy who made the Volt and the guy who made the Model S. I mean, the difference there is so staggeringly large. Between some guy who's like, yeah, maybe, who cares? Whatever, I'm getting rich. And Elon Musk is like, let's try and be responsible, wardens of our planet here. Yes. Let's not play this ridiculous experiment with our our one planet that we have.
And I love that Elon's argument is even if it's a 99%, right? Even if there's just a 1% chance that I'm right, let's not play this game.
Right.
Yes, it's Russian roulette with our planet.
Right.
And this is the perfect time to be showing this because the Volt, which was Bob Lutz's darling,
is gone.
Is gone. And could it even make it, a decade? No.
Right. And what is it being replaced with?
Yeah.
What does GM have which is replacing the Volt?
The Bolt.
Right, but I mean, that had already come out. Like,
No.
there's no, like, Volt 2.
No.
I want the Volt 2. I want, basically, it to be a fully electric car. Like, do that. I know that that's what a Bolt is, but make it, just take the Volt, rip everything out. I don't know. Do something.
It wasn't innovative to begin with.
No.
Let's go to this clip. We've had to edit it a little bit. We took out the swears, hopefully. There should
So
just be...
it should be entertaining to watch with your children.
Exactly. This is Joe Rogan, who we love to watch, and he just got a Model S.
Did you get a Tesla, or are you just driving around a
I got one.
Tell me, how do you like it? Do you
Preposterous. I had to get one. I told Elon Musk I would get one. Guy did my podcast. I owe him a solid. I'm a man of my word. It's a spaceship. It's the weirdest thing I've ever driven in my life. It doesn't even make sense. It's not even, there's not a single car that I've ever driven that's even close to as fast. Nothing. Like, my Porsche is so slow. I have a GT3 RS. It has 518 horsepower. It weighs 3,000 pounds. It sounds like a dragon. And that Tesla would leave it in the dust. I mean, leave it in the dust. Like 0 to 60, 2 seconds quicker.
Oh, Jesus.
It's insane.
Have you taken it out of
no
ludicrous
no.
mode?
Yeah, I did. I put it in chill mode for a little while. But you could drive chill with ludicrous mode always available. You don't have to keep switching back and
Ludicrous
forth.
mode is just crazy, like the fastest, and then it kills your battery.
Well, it kills your battery quicker, but the thrust that you get is a roller coaster ride. It's insane. I mean, you can't believe how fast it is. It literally doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem right. It seems like it's punching its way through a wormhole.
Do you like all the tech in it? I mean, that's
insane. It's too much almost because it's this giant screen. Like, I had to dim it way the down because I was just looking at it like, you're so pretty. You're so pretty. You're so pretty.
My dream car.
It's very comfortable.
How long?
Super comfortable.
Now, do you have a supercharged station at your house yet, or do you?
I have a thing on the wall at my house
that
I can plug it into. It's not a supercharger. It takes like 8 hours.
8 hours
or more.
And how many
probably plug it in.
miles?
But I'm going to get one of those. I'm going to get one of those fast charger in the house.
Yeah.
It goes allegedly. And I mean allegedly, 311 miles.
And do you have the fuel?
But here's the problem. I drive like a moron, so it's not going that far. Ideally, it would be great if solar panels had gotten so powerful that they could charge it just with the sun, especially because Southern California is always sunny, except for today. But it's a matter of time. The car is the future. That's what it is. It really is. Look, I'm a giant fan of American muscle cars. They're my all-time favorite cars in terms of, like, to drive, to hear the rumble of the engine, and that I love them. I love them. Maybe I'm some crazy old dude from the 80s that still loves 1960s muscle cars. Maybe. I don't care. I love them. But that car is the future. That Tesla is the future. Like, when you drive it, you realize, oh, other cars are stupid. What is that?
That's that new
crazy rocket they showed today.
He's shooting rockets out in his backyard. Is that his house?
Is there anything that you don't like on the or something that kind of bugs you that you wish was like, oh, I don't like how there's no door handles,
No, nothing. You just got to figure it out. It just takes a little while to figure out what all the different buttons do and how to get things to happen, but it's really well thought out. Look, he's a legit genius, and what he's doing is unprecedented. And this is going to sound like I'm kissing his ass. I like him because he did the podcast, and then I became friends with him. But no, he's important. The guy's got ideas that are of a magnitude that dummies like you and me are never going to come up with any of those ideas, ever. If we lived 1,000 lives, we would never figure out SpaceX. It's just not in our wheelhouse. We would never make an electric car. We never make one of those things. Never make that Tesla Roadster that's going to come out that goes 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds and looks like a spaceship, like a race car spaceship from the future. We're not doing that, dude. We need people like that. Those guys are super important. This guy he's like a culture changer, like a legit culture changer. Dude, that driving that car really feels like the future.
And did you get the best model, or is it what?
Son.
Of course you did, but
yeah, I got the Model S P100D is what it's called. You know what's weird, man? Passing by gas stations and going, I'm never gonna use you with this.
Yeah.
I'm never pulling in there unless I want a soda. Look at that thing. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. And I'm telling you, man, that's not an unrealistic number.
620 miles?
Yes.
Wait, when's this come out?
A couple years.
Oh.
It's going to be a while. I'm going to get one. 100%.
I'll buy your old one.
This is such a dope car, man. It doesn't even make sense. Why does it not have a side mirror? It's got no side mirrors?
Maybe
as cameras.
The rendering of it probably doesn't.
Shut your mouth.
I tell you,
side mirror, you sons of...
I love my cameras on my car. I don't even use my side mirrors. It's so much better having that.
Look at that thing.
How much is that?
620 mile. I don't know. Probably stupid expensive. Look how pretty it is. It's too pretty to be cheap. Look how sick that thing looks. Look at it.
God,
I mean, it's like the ultimate sports car. Like that looks like that easily could be a new 911. Like from that angle, particularly, and then the roof comes off.
Oh, it looks like gamer seats. Look at those gamer seats right there.
Well, not only that, but that's what racing seats
I
look
know.
like. But that's why they were racing seats first, and then became gamer seats.
Right.
But the steering wheel's wonky. The steering wheel's like a F1, like a Formula One car. See it?
Oh, it's like square.
Yeah. It's like you grab it by the handles, dude. I'm telling you that the car that I got,
beautiful.
I've never experienced anything like that before. You don't think it's real. You don't think a car can do that. It doesn't make any sense.
What?
$245,000. Oh, damn. Chop that cheddar.
Oh, my gosh.
That's plus the 5,000.
Oh, so
250,000.
250. Yeah. It's probably going to sell out in 5 seconds, too.
Pay it.
This is just a perfect clip to show what I'm talking about when I talk about butts and seats. Okay?
Yep.
I think that we've kind of reduced the idea down to 2-3 words, butts and seats. You don't understand how stupid other cars, to use his words, how stupid gas cars are until you get into a Model S and you experience it.
I was so surprised because Joe Rogan, he lives in LA. He's well off. He's with lots of other actors and famous people. He could get into a Model S anytime he wants. I don't know if he hadn't before.
He definitely had not.
I'm very surprised by that. I'm also surprised that he sees them every day. And so even though he sees them and has experienced, that they're in his environment, until he got his butt in the seat, he didn't understand it. Now that he's done that, he probably should go back and rewatch his podcast with Elon. He'll probably get it better because he didn't get it until he experienced it. And that is the truth with this technology.
And the other thing is, he isn't like I'm a techie, I'm a futuristic kind of guy. He says himself, I love muscle cars.
Yes.
Big American muscle cars. So he knows what he likes, but he can't help but admit and not stop talking about how amazing his Model S is. I think that it is so important. I think that this is a great little clip to show your friends and family when they don't quite understand how awesome it is, because he's comparing it to some pretty amazing cars, Porsche 911 and GT. It sounds like a dragon. I love that he says that it sounds like a dragon. He doesn't even care that the thing is quiet. He just cares about how it feels and how ridiculous.
And then
it is.
how about him talking about the Roadster? That was he didn't even understand that car. Like he knew it was a thing that was coming, but he didn't. Now he's excited because he's like, "Oh, I know what that's going to be like."
Right. And he doesn't. I mean, he didn't even talk about the SpaceX package, so I think he doesn't even know about that point.
Yeah. Joe, if you're watching,
I know
we're definitely
SpaceX package.
We'll take you for a ride.
Well, he's not watching.
He might be.
He has plenty of other things to worry about. All right, this next thing was one of those little things that you find on the internet. I was reading through it and it was just hilarious, and I wanted to bring it to you guys.
And what is it?
Basically, the title is "That Could Never Happen." We're going to be talking to some of the world's leading experts at the time about some emerging technologies.
Okay.
So we're going to get in our time machine.
All right, here we go.
We're going to go back in time and let's... Okay, so this is from Dr. Dionysius Larder, a professor of natural philosophy and astronomy at the University College London.
Sounds smart.
He says rail travel at high speeds is not possible because passengers unable to breathe would die of asphyxia. So because you're going so fast on the train, you wouldn't be able to breathe.
Yeah.
And you'd die.
That sounds true.
That's why trains could never happen.
He's right.
Let's go to the next one.
They never happened.
All right, this is from the Associates of Edwin L. Drake. Refusing his suggestion to drill for oil in 1859. He said, "Drill for oil? You mean drill into the ground and try and find oil? You're crazy."
Yeah, you can't get oil out of the ground.
Later that year, Drake succeeded in drilling the first oil well.
You know what I love about that one? It was just a year later. It wasn't like 100 years later.
All of these are like a year before the thing took off.
Yeah.
This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. That was Western Union internal memo.
I missed the boat on that one, huh?
Yeah.
How about this one? Everyone acquainted with the subject will recognize it as a conspicuous failure. That was from Henry Morton, president of the Stevens Institute of Technology, when he was told about Edison's light bulb.
Yes, let's see. Flight by machines heavier than air is unpractical and insignificant, if not truly impossible. That was by Simon Newcomb, the Canadian-American astronomer and mathematician, 18 months before the Wright brothers' flight at Kitty Hawk.
Just 18 months.
Right. It's impossible.
I'd like to see him at dinner parties after that.
Yeah.
That's not what I said.
No, I said that it was just impractical.
Okay, let's see. The president of the Michigan Savings Bank, advising Henry Ford's lawyers not to invest in the Ford Motor Company, said, "The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad."
Again, this is like right before it explodes. 1916. The idea that cavalry will be replaced by these iron coaches is absurd. It's a little short of treasonous. This is a comment of the aide-de-camp to the Field Marshal Haig at a tank demonstration. So, in 1916, horses will always be on the battlefield.
Here's another one from 1916. This is Charlie Chaplin, actor, producer, director, and studio founder. The cinema is little more than a fad. It's canned drama. What audiences really want to see is flesh and blood on the stage.
That was Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
He said that. Famous movie star.
Yeah.
Like one of the first.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, no,
that's not going to work.
That's it. The wireless music box has no imaginable commercial value. Who would pay for a message to send to no one in particular? How impractical. I would be sending a message to no one in particular.
So that's Associates of Commercial Radio and Television pioneer David Snarnoff responding to his call for investment in the radio.
Right.
Yeah. 1927, H.M. Warner, the co-founder of Warner Brothers, said, "Who the hell wants to hear actors talk?"
Of course, talking about the transition from silent films to films with sound.
Yeah, I much rather watch Game of Thrones with the sound off.
Right.
1946, Daryl Zanuck, the movie producer of 20th Century Fox, he said, "Television won't last because people will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night."
1977. There is no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home. That was Ken Olsen, president, chairman, and founder of the Digital Equipment Corporation.
Funny because they soon then did make home computers.
Right. There's no reason.
No, there's no rhyme or reason.
There's no reason for you to have one in your home, let alone in your pocket.
No, there's no reason for that because what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. You need to sit down at a mainframe.
What are you going to tweet somebody? And then lastly, Clifford Stoll, Newsweek article entitled "The Internet, Bah!" said the truth is no online database will replace your daily newspaper. That's the year after you were born.
Right. Whew. Well, so anyway, that I think is a good little
take one of those
breather.
favorites,
Yeah.
pocket it, and at the next dinner party when someone says that something that you're talking about can't happen, solar won't be a thing,
Right.
or EVs won't take off,
Right.
just be like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So I found this artist. He's been making art with the sun since 2012. His name is Michael Papadakis, and basically he uses refractors and reflection to power the sun to burn things, scorch them, and make beautiful art. And then I just found out he wants to be considered for the 2023 SpaceX moon trip with Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa, who, remember, said, "I choose to go to the moon with artists."
So this is an interesting artist to go to the moon with.
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. If he is indeed taken on the trip and he wants to bring like a big mirror with him or a big magnifying glass, is it physically possible? I know it's not smart. But is it physically possible that they could put him near the window seat and he could do his art from the sun coming through the window of the rocket?
It depends on the coating that they put on the windows, because
yes.
you're definitely going to need to put something on the windows.
Could he slide the window open?
I'm worried. about
forget
doing
the
that
worried
in a
part.
spacecraft.
Forget the worried.
Yeah,
I just
physically, you
all
could
right.
do
Then
it.
I think we should do it.
I mean,
Elon, let's do it. That would be so
account
awesome.
for like cosmic rays and all
That's
sorts of
fine.
other stuff that
That's
you could be
fine.
letting in.
Let's
but
do it.
I don't know.
I love it. And speaking of solar, Morocco now has the world's largest concentrated solar array. This is when you take mirrors and a tall tower, in this case 800 feet tall, which happens to be the tallest tower in Africa, and then you heat molten salt to a temperature of 932 degrees Fahrenheit or 500 degrees Celsius. You store that heat for hours, and then you can use it all night long. So now Noor Ouarzazate, Morocco, is now the world's largest concentrated solar farm. It's beaten out the U.S.'s Ivanpah solar plant in the Mojave Desert. This is 3,500 soccer fields. It's about the size of Manhattan. Check out this map here of reflectors. And it powers what would be the equivalent of the city of Prague. It saves 760,000 tons of carbon emissions annually. So get this, Morocco is already 35% renewable energy. They have set a goal by 2020, that's just next year, of being 42% renewable energy.
That's a pretty good goal.
Isn't that awesome?
I think you got to set the next goal. Set 2022, 100%. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have desert,
use it. Use what you got.
It's just
hey, we got the Sahara
sunny
Desert.
Yeah.
How can we use it?
Yeah.
I know, because that sounds like a lot of area. I know everybody's thinking like that's the whole, Manhattan. But we have a lot of area on Earth that we don't use.
Right.
And if you, that's powering almost half a country. So that's insane. Like, that's awesome. All right. Now, you guys know that as our awesome patrons, you get to see our Model 3 tip of the week. So here we go. Hey, everybody. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching the Model 3 tip of the week. All right, Jesse, what do we got this week?
We're talking about creep.
Who's a creep?
No, we're talking about creep in the Model 3. It's a setting you can turn on, and we're going to get into it right now.
So there's a setting that I don't think a lot of people know a lot about, and that is creep. It's kind of a weird name for for a setting. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about it today. All right, so let's talk about creep. I'm going to turn it on. So then I'm going to put the car in drive, and without me putting any pedal input, the car is going to slowly creep forward. So for people who are used to automatic transmission cars, this should be very natural to you. You simply, take your foot off the brake, and the car does a little bit of acceleration up to a very low speed. Now, I'm getting up to about 3 miles an hour. I feel like my older cars used to get up to like at least 10. So it's a very gentle creep. But basically what this allows you to do is, if you're so used to having creep in a car that this causes problems with your Tesla, this allows you to simulate it to kind of get you used to your new car. Now, I usually don't have creep on, and I will tell you why. It takes away from the one pedal driving experience. A lot of the time, I can do most of my slow speed driving with just one pedal. I'm using regen braking and I'm using acceleration. So I very rarely need to hit the brake pedal. But now if I want to come to a stop, I can't just rely on regen braking. I have to actually hit the brake pedal, and then I either have to set hill hold or something like that, or I have to put the car in park. Now, a lot of you might be saying creep is dangerous because on occasion, people will accidentally leave their cars in drive, they will get out of their car to do something, and they'll pin themselves against the wall or something like that. Well, luckily, the Tesla is pretty smart. So if I were to unbuckle my seatbelt and open the door and it starts creeping away, as you notice, it immediately put it into park, vehicle automatically parked to prevent rollaway. And once you get above 2 or 3 miles an hour, you can't open the door. If I get down to 0 miles an hour, I can open the door. Now I'm still seated, but it'll immediately put it in park right after, because it knows that the door is open and that the car should not be rolling on its own. Now let's change that. Let's quickly go to turning creep off, and we'll try to do the same thing. So I have the car in drive. I can't open my door at 3 miles an hour. I have to slow down. I open the door. Now it is letting me keep driving because I still have my foot on the pedal. Now I'm going to release my foot from the pedal for a minute. And it's still, there we go. It enabled. Now let's see if we do it a different way. Start driving, my door is open, and then I get out of my seat. So because I'm still putting in pedal input, it doesn't see that I have left. But if I wait long enough, it'll put it in park. It's kind of a fail-safe system no matter what you do. It's kind of really nice. So this car can do without creep. And a lot of people might be wondering, hey, you know, I would like to have my car not have creep. Why does it have creep? And it has to do with automatic transmissions. When they first were making automatic transmissions, they couldn't figure out how to make it so that the car wouldn't creep forward if you had an automatic. And basically, they just continued to make it that way since they started making it that way. I'm not sure if automatic transmissions today could, if they wanted to, have you come to complete stops and only go when the pedal goes. I think it sort of found its way into tradition, but you now have the option of whether to turn it on or off. And just so you know, it creeps in reverse too.
Oh, so it's not a creep in the Model 3. I wouldn't want to do that to people.
No. So, I mean, I think that it has its place. I don't use it. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
But I much prefer to be in complete control of my car at all times.
But it's a good legacy feature, for people who need that something to transfer
maybe
from ice to...
But if I ever passed out in my car for whatever reason, it would...
No, it is dumb. I mean, if you think about why do we even need to do that just to emulate some old technology?
Right. I would rather that my car eventually comes to a stop instead of it continuing to roll at 5 miles an hour.
I do want to say, don't attempt to do what Jesse did, trying to get out of the car while you're creeping. That was scary, but it's important for science.
Important to test.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching our Model 3 Tip of the Week. Now, if you're a Patreon and you support us there for as little as $1 a month, you get to see these Model 3's Tips of the Week a couple days early on Mondays. Also, you get to see all of our bonus stories. So head on over to Patreon. You support the show. You become an awesome person. And
don't forget about Discord. Discord is a $3 a month perk, and you get to be introduced to the entire Now You Know Discord community. There are over 200 people. Everyone there is awesome. I can just verify that myself by going on there. Some of the conversations that we're having.
It's a great way to make yourself awesome.
Absolutely, and it's one of the nicest places on the internet. Everyone there is really nice and respectful. And I'm not used to seeing that on the internet. It is a far cry from our YouTube comments. So if you're reading through the YouTube comments or you don't do that, and
we have good YouTube comments.
Sometimes we do, but
come on, they're pretty good.
Compared to Discord, it's nothing.
Wow.
All right, thank you so much for watching the Model 3 Tip of the Week. Thank you so much for being Patreon supporters of this show. I'm glad that you watched till the end. I'm sure I'm only speaking to 5 of you, so that's pretty cool. I feel like I should just tell a secret or something at the end.
I mean, got a secret?
It's like we're narrowing down our viewership down to the
I feel
very
like there's
end.
a secret you can tell them.
What's a secret? What's a good secret we could tell?
I feel like one secret is that you're going to be in the UK with me near mid-April, and we're going to be doing some fun stuff in the UK. Nobody else knows that because you waited till the end.
You waited till the end of the Patreon bonus stories.
No one else knows that.
Yeah, I mean, you were
we barely know.
You were in a very exclusive
we just booked
club.
our tickets.
Absolutely. So anyway, little secret. Maybe we should see if we can. I don't know if we can top that secret next week, but
probably can if we try.
All right. Anyway, catch you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Now you know.